All right, I'm going live, so we should be good to go. Let me go there. Go there. Don't view everyone. Hide everyone. Okay. So Josh, whenever you're ready. Matt is not logged in yet, but he was logging off and logging right back in, so he should be back any second. Matter of fact, he's arrived, so at your convenience, we could open up the budget hearing. Josh.
Okay, go ahead and call to order the budget hearing at 6:03 p.m.
Okay, so the budget hearing is actually a opportunity for any of the public who might want to comment on our budget this year or make comments on anything to do with us and our budget. At this point in time would be their chance to bring that up to the board. I think we only had, I'm going to expand this out again and look and see. I think John Bush was the only, we have Kira Erickson from the record as well. So does anyone from the public wish to comment on our budget? This is the opportunity for the public to comment to the board and the board to hear those comments.
Thank you, Doug. I have no comments on the budget. I have not reviewed it yet. My only comments are on the trail plan. Thank you.
Okay, that was John. All right, thank you, John. Any other public comments on the budget? Okay. So I will pull it up really quick, just since we've got some time here, if it will actually open. All right. Oh, there we go. So I'll just kind of here what we are looking at. What we do is actually just the 2021 budget. And we are looking, so at this column right here, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
So we have four principles guidelines, and those are listed here in priority order. The fundamental principle number one is that we have an ending reserve balance of 25% of the following year's expenses. And the purpose of that is to fund park operations for an orderly shutdown in the event of a loss of a levy. So fundamental principle one. Fundamental principle two is beginning cash, which we require 25% of the current year's expenses, and that's to fund the first 3 months expenses prior to distribution of significant funds to us from the levy from the county. And fundamental principle number three is an annual transfer of 10% of the levy to the capital projects fund. That is to pay the current loans on the equipment, fund additional capital projects planned for the coming year, and to build a capital reserve for contingencies if possible. Fundamental principle number four, at the end of each year, we transfer 50% of any amount over and above the required reserve fund beginning cash amounts to the capital fund. This is, again, to build that capital reserve. So as you see here, our beginning cash is required to be $259,000 based on our expenses. We are actually going to be at $391,000. Okay, our 10% is being transferred over. That's, I believe, number three. Our ending cash is dead on in this budget. And then the end of the year transfer, since our ending cash, we've made it pretty much dead on. That transfer, is either factored in here or it is a zero transfer. Where is it? I'm looking for it. Loan transfer, loan payments, accounts payable balance. Peggy, am I missing it?
What are you looking for?
The transfer at the end of the year. Transfer to
For
reserve.
what?
Oh,
at the very bottom.
like here? beginning reserve balance, ending reserve balance. So there's
Yeah.
no
Go
difference.
up a little. Go up a little bit. Right there. Transfer to reserve. Down a little. Down two more.
Okay,
Yep,
so
right there.
So we are basically transferring to the reserve there, 5,390.
Right. Transferring money out of M&O to the reserve.
Perfect. That's what was confusing me because it was in red. So that's why I was confused. All right, so we are meeting all four of our fundamental principles for next year's budget. And as you can see, as you look out for the 4-year projection, the 5-year projection, we are green throughout. So this assumes a lot. Looking out and projecting out 5 years, it assumes that things don't change significantly. But it is about as targeted as we can be for a 5-year projection. So that is the budget as it currently stands. We do have this on our regular agenda for approval for the 2021 budget. But as we talked about in prior budget discussions, the Park District only budgets 1 year at a time. We do not have the ability to budget. We get our budget approved at the county or logged at the county once it is approved by our board on an annual basis for the coming year. So we are budgeting for 2021, and the budget looks good for next year. Any questions from the board since we've got a little time here?
Are you going to, hi, it's Jennifer. Are you going to drill down into the administration budget expenses?
I wasn't planning on it. I can.
Okay.
If you'd like me to. I wasn't planning on going into any detail unless there were questions. We certainly can.
I just had a question as to why the business managers' wages are going down.
I'm planning on retiring next year. I really didn't want to say it here, but well, now you all know.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, there you go.
And so I'm anticipating the person who comes in for me is going to have a lower salary.
Well, there's a shocker.
Do you have a timeline, Peggy?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you have a timeline?
Third quarter.
Okay. So that gives me a little bit of time to figure that out and get somebody new anyways. That was news to me as well. I missed that. So, news to me. Okay, so that's why that is lower, and that makes sense because we would start them on the first step of the step and grade system.
Okay, and then under continuing down through those expenses for the building lease, I thought there was a rent increase, so shouldn't that be reflected?
Building lease. Yeah, there's a slight increase, and I think we figured we could just absorb it in there. It's basically it's
$10.
Like it's $120 for the entire year, so it's not a significant increase.
That was it for me.
Any other questions from anybody else?
Thank you, Jennifer. Good catch.
Sorry, Peggy.
Well, so hearing no more questions, and this being the budget hearing for public comment, I think we can close the budget hearing, and we would have to re-adjourn at 6:30 since we posted the 6:30 start. So we can close the budget hearing and adjourn the budget hearing, and then we can restart with a call to order at 6:30. I'll leave the meeting open and I'll leave it running, and we can just mute ourselves and wait till 6:30.
Okay, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 6:12.
Okay, we will reconvene at 6:30.
All right, thanks, Doug.
Thanks, everyone.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
And we should be back on the live stream now. Let me double check that just to make sure. Yes. All right. Well, we are good to go. Welcome back. Josh, whenever you are ready, it is 6:30. We could call the regular meeting to order.
Okay, let's call the regular board meeting to order at 6:30. First thing on there is public comment.
Okay, for public comment, the first thing I wanted to let everybody know is we did receive approximately, I believe it was 19 written public comments for the Trustland Trails project. Those I have circulated those, and all the commissioners should have received them and been able to read them. I see nodding going on. So those, what I'm going to do with those is, rather than read them into the record, we are going to attach them as public comment to the minutes. So those in their entirety will be included in the public comment section for the board meeting. I know we have John Bush on the line. He did write a letter, and I will try and pull that up here. John did write a letter, but if he wanted to add anything in addition to his letter, he is welcome to comment at this time. He's got his letter there that I circulated to the board yesterday, and then again today with the entirety of the rest of the board comments. So, John, if you had any additional comment.
Doug, thank you very much. I have no additional comment. I hope that all of the board members have read my comments and Cleveland Hall's comments. I think they're pertinent to the plan, but I won't take more of your time if that's in the record and the board members have read it. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll talk about the Trustland Trail stuff in our regular agenda. Unless there's any other public comment for anybody else? Okay, hearing nobody speak up, that will be the end of public comment.
Okay, let's move on to the approval of the minutes.
Okay. Minutes from, I'm going to minimize. What was that?
Doug, can I ask a question, or is that, can I ask John a question? I meant to get that in, but something came on in front of that.
You can certainly ask John a question if you'd like to.
I would, because I read his comments twice that he wrote. John, if you're still on, I'm just curious. You mentioned about the habitat and your concern for those species. Is it your opinion that these extra trails are going to put those species at risk? Was that the gist of what I'm reading?
So, Eric, good to hear you this evening. And I am on, and I'll stay on for the rest of the meeting. I am not a professionally qualified environmental ecologist, so I should not offer an official opinion. What I do know is this area has remained relatively undisturbed for a relatively long period of time. And I only advocate that the board consider the impact of the scale of the expansion of the trails program in light of its stated values of minimizing the impact to, to habitat. I think it's a matter of level of awareness and prioritization. I don't have any conclusive decisions of what you should do or should not do, but the impact of increased visitation in this area where sensitive species are known to habitat is worthy of your consideration. Does that answer your question?
It does. I mean, I think it's legitimate. There was one other concern that somebody had, and it was of a similar nature about making the trails expanded. And, you know, what impact does that have, being you're putting more trails in a specific area to the actual habitat? So I just appreciate the fact that, because I really hadn't thought about that aspect, about having a large area for certain habitats versus when you start to shrink that down because of trails. So I appreciate the comment. Just want you to know that that I heard that anyway. So
yeah, if I may respond again, Doug, The bald eagles seem to be very tolerant of humans in the neighborhood because I have two pairs that are roosting on my adjacent property of only 5 acres. But the pileated woodpecker is known to be very adverse, as is the marbled murrelet. And again, I'm not an expert. I'm just saying, if people can achieve a high quality visitation without impacting adversely sensitive species, that's a worthy consideration of the board. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Okay. Good. Thanks, John. Thanks, Eric. And John, I'll ask you to make sure you mute yourself so that we don't have any background noise come in. Thank you very much. And then moving on to the meeting minutes from October 21st, 2020. It was our budget workshop and our regular meeting. I'm going to minimize this part of the screen. Hopefully everybody can see everything pretty well. Any comments, questions, concerns on the board meeting minutes from October?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second that motion.
Eric, I.
Jennifer, I.
Josh, aye.
Matt, aye.
Okay. I think that's everybody, unless, did I hear from Krista?
I second.
And did you say aye?
Yes, sorry, Krista, I.
Okay, good. Moving on. Treasurer's report. Let's start with the actual treasurer's report.
Can you pull it up, Doug?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
All right, come on. There we go. Let me hide this. Collapse.
Okay. So again, just for reference, on these 4 charts, up is favorable, down is unfavorable. And what you see here, remember the blue line is our actual net revenue versus expenses, and the budget is the magenta line. And we've been running slightly above the last couple of months. You can see it narrowed a little bit by about 10,000 between September and October, but we're still 52,000 favorable to plan cumulative for the year. You go to the next slide, Doug. We'll see the revenue picture. And there you can see that net unfavorable with the bulk of it coming from programs, obviously not running programs. Results in not realizing program revenue. So cumulative, we're 122,000 unfavorable, a slight increase over September. Next slide shows the expense profile, and you can see the expense control has more than accounted for the drop in revenue. Net 174,000 favorable, relatively flat for the last couple months. But again, that nets us 52,000 favorable overall. And then the last slide shows the fund balances. We're on plan as of the end of October. And remember, as we get to the end of the year, we'll reset the reserve fund higher to account for that budget that we talked about in the budget workshop. So that's the next event from a fund balances standpoint. But we're on plan, and we should be on plan at the higher reserve objective when we get to January. Any questions on the Treasurer's report before we go to the vouchers? Okay, you should see the voucher list, and you have that in the board packet as well. Do you want to just touch on any changes?
Yeah, it was very minor changes this month. I think there was only 2, so I'm scrolling through here right now. We paid Quinn Fitzpatrick for ukulele instruction, and we got some propane from Skagit Farmers, and I think that was it. So those are the only two other items that have changed since this went out in your board packet on Friday.
Yeah, so the new totals are 77,590.26, and from
I think that was it.
where are new totals? Yeah, M&O, and then property is, what's the property?
Scroll up, Doug, till you get to the first half of the month.
Okay.
And keep going. Yeah, right there's property.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, so 37,28.75.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So if there are no questions, I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers for 77,590.26 from M&O and 37,28.75 from the property fund.
I did have a question on what was distributed with the packet. There were a couple of larger repairs in there, I thought, for some equipment. Everything fixed? What happened? Did something happen? What?
Which ones, where were you talking about?
Of course. Now, there was, I think, a mower. Unless I'm looking in the wrong.
Yeah, there was a mower repair and and the truck repair, those two.
Yes, those two.
Those were more maintenance.
Okay.
Ongoing maintenance.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Okay, there's a motion on the floor.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Jennifer, I.
Krista, I.
Eric, I.
Pat, aye.
Josh, aye. We will move on to the staff report.
All right, staff report. So Zumba, we did have to cancel due to weather. We've combined 2 sessions of tree climbing, and we're starting up some bird watching programs. Unfortunately, a lot of things might have to change now, and I'll get into that in our when we talk about our facility usage and ongoing such. Obviously, the state of Washington closed certain things out there down. We are now down to a maximum of 5 in a group again. So that means an instructor and 4 students. So that impacts our programs a great deal. So right now that is through December 14th. We are kind of on a hold with that. Pickleball we've canceled on a regular basis due to the wet courts. We are still waiting permission to access gyms, but at this point that's going to be on hold. Winter activity guide will be coming out on December 10th. And again, slim offerings. We're keeping it minimal due to the pandemic uncertainty. Basketball league is going to be uncertain. And we're trying to compile a kind of small local activities to share with the community, things to do close to home, late November through December, highlight some programs, but we've invited to the community to provide items to add to the list. The bird watching program, Brian is a helpful and knowledgeable instructor, so I believe Carrie went and had a great time except for the mask/fogging issue with her glasses. There's some pictures here of the bird watching and one of the Zumba classes. Facilities and grounds, we've been busy wrapping up the bidding on the roof project. Tom did a lot of that and looking into the vehicle lift quotes. We also got a proposal from Liquivision Diving Services for the water tank cleaning. Last water test of the year came back clean and no problem with the source water. So that problem that we had before has been resolved. We did some flushing. We did a good amount of flushing out of the system, and that helped us a lot. So that's good. The pole replacements on the restroom are complete as of today. I do have some pictures of those I can show in a minute, but there's one here of the prior, and I'll have some pictures of the other ones I can bring up here in a minute. We also pressure washed. Oops, lost it. Went too far down there. You can see here in the picture we have pressure washed and stained the wood poles on that side. This is the one we were replacing here, and the entire playground was also pressure washed and cleaned with the Olympic deck cleaner. Again, I'll get to those other pictures here in a minute to show you that. Yes.
So could I ask one question of
Sure.
Tom? Only just a minor thing, but I ran into it the last couple of mornings and just going through the park. First thing, I call it the Cushman. It's not the Cushman anymore, but one of the headlights is out, and he's driving around the park in the dark with just one headlight. Are we waiting on a part there or what?
Yeah, we have to get. It's been hard to get parts. That vendor was bought out and replaced. It was RMT equipment, and the closest one now is down in Portland. And so we're trying to get parts, and getting parts for certain vehicles that they used to service for us has been pretty tough. But yeah, we've got it up. It should be coming.
Okay, thanks.
So at the end of October, I attended a virtual National Recreation and Parks Association conference. Some good sessions focused on different things like inclusivity, green initiatives, that kind of thing. It was interesting. I felt it was beneficial, and if a virtual option is offered in future years, that may be a more reasonable way to attend and not spend the money on travel. It wasn't, my ideal of going to a conference, sitting in my living room attending a conference, but, it's better for the park district not to have to spend that money on the travel. We are working through all the paperwork on the Waterman property purchase. Big thank you to Jennifer for putting together this purchase and sale agreements. I'm working on, I think I just finished up the last form from the RCO on that. I'm waiting to hear back from our grants manager, Allison, on whether or not that needs to be adjusted, changed, or cleaned up. And then we can look at scheduling a closing date and finish that up. I did have discussions with both Matt and Marnie Zimmerman from the foundation on items with the proposed aquatic facility and potential next steps. We're going to have more on that in the regular agenda. Matt's going to talk about some things that they've got going on and some ideas they have and potential stuff that we could do. I met with Jennifer and Matt on the proposed trail plan for Trust on Trails. As you know, I've sent out the letters to all of the neighboring property owners, emails to our email list, and issued a Facebook post requesting comments. At the time I wrote the report, we had received 13 emails. We have now received 19, and I have had one phone call. Most of the emails are supportive of the concept trail plan. And again, more on that when we get to the regular agenda. We can talk about that. Continuing to monitor the current state and county requirements for COVID-19. And again, more on that in the regular agenda because we did have a change on that. So we'll talk about that there. Coming up, we are looking at doing whatever we can, but a lot of this will likely be impacted with COVID restrictions going through December 14th right now. And again, we can talk more on that in the regular agenda. I'm planning on our December 16th meeting to be a virtual meeting as well. I'm assuming that that's going to continue well into next year. So, and it looks like the polar bear dive will most likely not happen. We have not been able to get the permit approval from the county to proceed with that. Any questions on the staff report?
Yeah, question for Carrie, actually. And I think this would fall in your category, but has anybody thought about online fitness classes offered through Park and Rec? I know you offered like Zumba going on in the park, and it just seems like an opportune time if we put it out there for somebody maybe to step up. I'm not offering that myself. I want to be clear, Carrie, but I'm every day. But as I do this with kids every day, it becomes ever so clear that it would be really cool for Park and Rec to offer whatever type of aerobic type of fitness class could be virtual, and somebody could do it from their studio or from a home. I just don't know if that's been thrown out there.
Yeah, I've been speaking with one of our regular instructors about that possibility. So that may happen. Maybe.
It's like there's enough people on the island that have that kind of endorsement or that background that if maybe we put it out there, and I know you guys do that. I'm just suggesting that if it was more specific, saying, hey, have you thought about creating an online forum? I think there'd be an interest at this time. I think it'd be, especially post Thanksgiving, you might draw some people into that fitness craze. anyway, that's my,
Yeah.
I'd love to help you if there's anything I could do in terms of writing that up or trying to get people supported, but just a thought.
Yeah. Well, and maybe you might be a good resource for contacting specific people about the opportunity to be the instructor for that.
Doug, I have a question.
Go ahead.
My wife is outreach director for Island Senior Resources, and there may be a constituency for seniors who would participate in an online fitness course, FYI.
Okay, we can have Carrie reach out to kind of cooperate if need be. Okay, so looking at the side here, we talked about those post replacements. Those are both now completed. You can see that the process here, if you look here, you can see this is the condition of that post. If you want to see it more clearly, it's on the patio behind my office at the district offices. We now have a wonderful new post in. And you can see him putting it in there. So new post, holding up that, and as well, we determined that the ants had not made it all the way up into the cross beam, so everything is now healthy, strong, and good to go. Any other questions on the staff report?
Just one more for Carrie. That I've seen there's kind of a core fitness group that's out on the basketball court once or twice a week. Is that any kind of organized activity that through you, or is that just a pop up?
I wasn't aware of it. It's not us.
Okay. Maybe a couple of candidate instructors out there.
Yeah.
You know, if you see him out there, Matt, send him our way. We're happy to talk to him about putting together a program with him, and we'd actually prefer that than just pop up kind of things like that happening.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions on staff report? Okay. All right. Moving along. Comprehensive plan. So I'm going to minimize this again. I'll update you on what's going on here, and then I'm going to pass it off to Matt for a little bit. So for the campground, our clearing and grading map is updated and into the county for review. I'll be finalizing the application for the small water system management plan this month and a half here. Hopefully start moving forward with bidding and then construction after that. I can't think of anything else we need to do other than that and getting the whole plan put together. Waterman property, our agreement is done. Our purchase and sale agreement is done. I think I've got the last document done. We just would need some stuff from the title company once that's done, and then we can schedule a closing date, get the funds transferred over, and finish up the property purchase. We will have on the latter part of the agenda today a authorized signatory policy update that we'll need in place so that I can sign off on the purchase as a representative of the park district. So that's those two items. Aquatic facility. Matt, do you want to speak to this?
Sure. Yeah, just so you know, we had the discussion last month about the site, and I think it got shared out. There were a ton of emails. Did you share that picture out that I sent, that I shared in the meeting, Doug?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, okay. So you got that layout. So this is kind of just a snapshot of the next steps in the project. And, you know, the joint committee that we signed the MOU for is working kind of at moving things forward. So what we've already done the water study for the park that included the water for this facility, conceptual, and then the septic study. The next step, evidently, with the state is to file a site survey. You take the septic feasibility and you submit an application to the state, and then wait something between 6 months and a year to get the state to tell you that your site is good. So that's something that's being requested or investigated, with the state to figure out, you know, what the application is. And sounds like it's something that David O, who did the septic study, can also submit. They're a qualified firm for doing these. It's called the LOSS, large scale septic thing. So anyway, so that's a next step with the site. The next kind of step with the project is
well beyond
a feasibility review. And what I talked about maybe 2 meetings ago was that the foundation had gone out on a couple different grant requests to try to get funding for that. It's about a $40,000 kind of expenditure with a third-party consultant to do a feasibility of the overall project, look at the financials, hold some public meetings to get public input. So I would expect in the next month or two that will come through, and we'll need to support that for sure in hosting the public meetings to get the input. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge, obviously, with COVID. Those are meetings that these consultants like to do with, yellow stickies and whiteboards, and it's a real interactive process. It's going to be a little bit more difficult online, but so that'll be the chance for the public to comment on the program and roll that input into the plans. And then the next step after that will be actually working on the actual design, engineering drawings, and the design of the facility. So verifying that the septic is good for the site with the state, doing the feasibility to get public input, and verify the terms of the project, the cost, the maintenance and operations costs, all that kind of stuff. And then moving forward to actually getting to some design plans. And at that point, we will be thinking about, public sources of grant funding. You remember when we were talking about the last grant cycle, the project wasn't far enough to go into the WWRP or to the LWCF. They're looking for the shovel-ready projects, and it was really the napkin stage at that point. So, but the next cycle, I think, will be further along and far enough along that it's realistic that we can be submitting for grants with feasibility complete, knowing enough about the site to know that it's viable, and having some drawings. That, as Doug has seen from going down and participating in those reviews, the more shovel ready it is, the better chance you have. So that's a snapshot. I think there's going to be much more learned in the next couple months, and just keep me on the agenda for a monthly update, Doug, and that'll be on what things are coming down the pike from a cost standpoint, and then what funding the foundation's been able to pull from the grants that they've submitted for and the private funding requests that they've made. And then, we'll just kind of take each month as it comes, following that rough path.
Okay. And Marty did approach me about the idea of potentially splitting some of these costs. That is something that the board would decide and look at on an item by item basis, I would guess, as we move forward. So. And I think those are, there's a lot of not uncertainty. There's stepping through this process, figuring out what are the most time sensitive next steps. For example, this state site survey that needs to be done that could take a year to get those things going. Because you find that out a year from now, and then you realize you put the project on another year delay. So figuring those things out, getting enough detail, and figuring those things out. One of the things that the committee's done has been to visit a number of other pools in the area to kind of figure out what's going on, lessons learned. So we visited the Oak Harbor pool and met with their new director and their maintenance director. Visited Dana Quarters pool, looked at their facility and talked to their director, and have done some other virtual visits to some other facilities, to Skagit. Mount Vernon has a new YMCA they just built. So getting a chance to talk to some of these folks about, what works for them, what doesn't. Met with the folks who are trying to build a similar facility up on Lopez Island.
That's been a project that's been going on now for probably the better part of 10 years, but they're just about to break ground or breaking ground now. So what it is, the city of Fircrest, in Tacoma, they just built a pool and raised $18 million got a bunch of money from the state, got a bunch of money from private grants and private foundations, but raised $18 million in the city of 7,000 people. We've got 16,000 population. So anyway, so there's a lot of good chances to talk to other folks who are doing or trying to do the same thing to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And I've got reports from some of those things. Anybody ever wants to see any of those, that detail, like, what did the Anacortes folks tell us? What did we learn from Fircrest? What did we learn from Oak Harbor? All those reports are available, and I can share those, or Marnie and the committee can share those. So if anybody has any interest in seeing that detail from any of that activity, it's all available, and we can share it out, as people want to see it. That's it. If anybody's got any questions, otherwise, like I said, just keep an agenda item on, and we'll just keep providing a monthly update.
A quick comment, Doug.
That'd be up to the board, John. If they wanted to hear from the community, that's up to them. Josh would be the one to ask that. Josh, did you want to open that up for any public comment at this point?
Yeah, if Matt's receptive towards it, then
yeah, it's fine. Yeah, go ahead.
No problem with it.
Yeah, my comment is thank you. What a huge amount of work you're doing for the livability of this community, and a great appreciation for all those efforts. That's my comment.
No, thanks, John. Yeah. The foundation, we have this foundation, not 501c3 nonprofit, that has stepped up to help us with this project. The comprehensive plan programs can be tough to get off the ground because our state funding sources are not well suited to starting projects. They're good at projects that are almost ready to go, but to get something off the ground requires a lot of kind of roll up your sleeves kind of work. And fortunately, we've had this foundation. Marnie Zimmerman is the president of it, who stepped up to the plate to help us do this and raise money and organize all these efforts, do this research with the state. So we got a great group of community volunteers who are working to make this community, a better place to live, for sure. So thanks for that comment. I'll pass it on to them as well.
You're welcome. I would only follow up with the fact that I'm a registered lobbyist in the state of Washington. And if there's any way I can support this effort, please reach out to me. I am enthusiastic about your work.
I appreciate it, John. Thank you.
Okay, next item on our agenda is the facility usage report. We started this when we got into COVID and started down the road of this. The guidance came in on Sunday at 11 to take effect on Monday night, Tuesday morning at midnight. So midnight, Monday, November 16th through Monday, December 14th, all counties in Washington are rolled back to the restrictions as outlined. Indoor gatherings with people from outside your household are prohibited. So that means any indoor programs are done. Outdoor social gatherings, which would include any, in my conversation with Keith Hickman at the county, this would include any pickup games. Any outdoor programs that we might have are limited to 5 people from outside your household. So that means an instructor and 4 students. If you're doing a pickup game, that is a total of 5 people, not 5 people on each team. So we have communicated that to our groups. Outdoor fitness classes, like we said, are permitted but are subjected to and limited by the outdoor social gathering restriction listed above, the 5 people. And then finally, the only other thing that really, the couple of things that replied to us were professional services are required to mandate that employees work from home when possible and close office to the public if possible. Any office that must remain open must limit occupancy to 25% of indoor occupancy limits. Well, we are, as a local government, I asked the question, does that apply to us? Keith said, yes, it does. That was specifically discussed on the call with the state health director. That local government offices should be closed and employees should work from home when possible. We are currently closed in our office. We are answering phone messages, answering emails remotely when possible, but when we need to be in the office, we can be in the office, but the office is generally closed to the public. If we have somebody call us, we will do the best we can to accommodate them as those restrictions allow. Youth and adult sporting activities. One second, let me finish this up, and then I'll get questions at the end.
Yeah.
Youth and adult sporting activities, indoor activities are currently completely shut down. Okay, that is all indoor activities. That's indoor basketball, indoor volleyball, anything like that is currently not happening through December 14th. All contests and games are prohibited. That is indoor and outdoor. I did clarify that with the county health department. And outdoor activities are limited to intra-team practices only, with facial coverings required for everyone involved at all times. Somebody had a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just on the phone. So does the phone ring out to the staff, or is it just leave a message and then we check it every once in a while?
Leave a message. When we posted this, leave a message, and we are checking it at least daily, if not more than daily. So I know that Peggy checks that religiously. The main line, I check my line at least once a day, if not twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. I have been in the office today, so I didn't have any messages when I got in there this morning. I will check it again, tonight before I head to bed, and I will probably check it again tomorrow morning and check it again tomorrow night. But it is a leave a message and we will get back to you. Currently, the best way to probably get a hold of most of our staff is via email. I get my email on my phone, so I get that a lot quicker, especially when I've got Wi-Fi at my house. The phone messages while we will get back to them, my phone message says, for more immediate assistance, please email us and we will probably get that quicker.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, so that is the facility group use of district facilities. That's our unfinished business. And then now we've got a whole host of new business to go through. Josh, I'm just going to keep rolling through unless you stop me.
Sounds good.
Okay. Item 7A. 7 is new business. A is the meeting with the school district. This meeting involved myself, Eric Jokinen, Jennifer Cox, and Dr. Joe Moshe, and 2 of her commissioners, Andrea. I've lost the last name.
Downs.
Downs. Downs. Okay, Andrea Downs and Blake Lilliford. Yeah. Okay, Williford. So we had the 6 of us on a call, a conference, a Zoom meeting. We talked about developing a shared vision statement going forward and taking our interlocal to the next level. What came out of that was the idea that we should look at what our usage is and the value of this agreement. I think our commissioners are fairly aware of what we use of theirs and what they use of ours. There was documents included. The school district sent us what they had. Joe sent us an email, kind of gave us a breakdown of what they think we use, kind of what they use of ours. And in general, it's pretty close. The detail that she had on what they use of ours is not as detailed as what I have, because I have the actual reservation requests and can go through and nail those down. Park trails, high school cross country, 4 days a week, 2 to 3 meets in 2 months. Middle school cross country. I have a little more detail on my spreadsheet. And there's no real. There wasn't really anything that I looked at there that was like, yeah, that's just not happening, or that's just completely wrong. I had our staff review theirs, and for the most part, other than maybe some difficulty or some being bumped for a school program in the gym, we didn't see a lot of significant difference with what they listed as to what we listed. So In my opinion, there's value in the cooperation and the collaboration. I think it benefits our community, and I think we, as a park district, benefit from it. I think the school, as a school district, benefits from it. I just like to take it to that next level and look at how can we make it better? How can we get more of these facilities available more of the time? School fields is one of the big ones that I look at and go, can we help them get their fields to a level that we can use all of the fields and spread that usage around? Our fields right now are pretty saturated with water, and while our drainage works, it doesn't take all the water away. It just takes, any excess water away. The mud in between the drainage lines still gets soft and muddy. So it's going to be an ongoing issue, but if we had more space to spread people out, especially in winter months, it would help us a great deal. So I'll let Eric and Jennifer kind of chime in on the meeting and add anything else that I might have missed.
I think he covered it well. I was going to say that I think, the looking into the future, I brought it up with Doug a little bit before, but mentioning that as we transition into a hybrid model in the school system, I think the spreading out of bodies is going to lead to a greater need for cooperation. I expressed this at the meeting, and that's the only thing I have to add, Doug, that I think it is very wise as we go into the future to have even better cooperation than we've had in the past.
Okay.
Ask a quick question, Eric or Jen?
Go right ahead, Matt.
Did you guys talk about the topic of charges for the use of school facilities? The topic that we talked about in the joint board meeting we had with them in whenever that was, December.
So I can answer that one. We were told in no uncertain terms right off the bat that the community center was no longer part of the agreement, and if that's what our goal was, that was not going to be anything that was going to be considered. That's their position, and that's something that we were looking at, trying to become more collaborative in general. We also will have 40, and I'm hoping by the end of this year we'll have 40 acres of property that's right behind the primary school. So I'm thinking that the trail expansion in there and cooperation with them is key going forward. I don't think, ideally I'd love to have the community center as a part of this agreement. I don't think that's a deal breaker in my mind. Did that answer your question, Matt?
Yeah. I mean, what's the impact? Like, what's our budget commitment to that rental for 2021, Carrie? Do you know?
I believe it's very minimal, because I believe we projected that there wasn't going to be much in the way of anything going on with basketball this year. There wasn't going to be much in the way of anything going on with pickleball until we get through this, and I believe we very, very minimal impact. And what we can do is look at offsetting that with a usage charge of some sort if we have to. That's what it may come down to.
Yeah, and like I said, to me that's the unfortunate development, is the idea that we, that facility was being run as a profit center, and excluding us from it. It's a tremendous resource to me, and as a shared resource, it makes way more sense to me as a shared resource for the benefit of the community, especially the youth of the community. And it's unfortunate that was the line they drew for you guys in the meeting.
Yeah, it was unfortunate that it was a hard no right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Not even an ask. It was just put on the table.
Yep. I understand. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Middle school is near and dear to my heart, obviously. And, I said this not in the meeting, but it's hard for me to understand if you call it a community center and then charge, extra to park and recreation people. Do you still call that a community center? I mean, that's a theme that to me, it's uncomfortable. So I concur, Matt.
But we were also reminded that recreation is not considered part of their education model.
Sure, I understand. Yeah, I've heard that before.
To which I replied, yes, physical education is still part of the education model. So, yeah. But the community center is all different. That we're talking about the community involvement, including our youth people. So it's, yeah.
So just so we're all on the same page, I just kind of wanted to get a direction from the commissioners. My feeling is that there is value in this interlocal agreement for us. Still, a good portion of it gets taken away by not being able to use the community center gym at no charge, but we are still able to use other gyms and other facilities there at no charge. So there is a value to us. I would like to continue to pursue that, but if the board doesn't think there's a value to us, we can say to them there's no value. I just wanted to kind of get your temperature so that we could take that back to them and go, our board feels that there is value here. Looking at the reports, we feel there is good value in the shared use of these facilities. We'd like to continue to pursue a shared vision statement and try and move things forward. Is that what I'm hearing from everyone?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is we need to fence off everything we could possibly fence off. Like, write in everything except the community center, and in perpetuity, right? For the community's benefit, I think absolutely in writing as soon as we can.
Okay.
Hey, Doug, did you guys discuss the closing off of the intermediate school?
We did not get into any specifics other than they stated that the community center was not going to be part of the agreement. We were talking in generalities. This was like the 70,000 foot view. This was not well, what about this field? Well, what about this building? Other than that, that was just stated at the outset. We were talking in generalities to get things started. I wanted to continue this discussion with them. And I felt in past that when we get bogged down into the specifics too soon, it tends to stop the conversation. I wanted to get a general conversation going and then bring more staff and more knowledgeable people about what we use, what we need, what we could use in once we get to the specifics discussions. Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Okay, hearing none, I will sit down with Jennifer and Eric, and we will send a message over to Dr. Joe and the Blake and Andrea and see about if they're still on board with this, and if they are, great, we'll start moving forward. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Eric, for joining me on that meeting. Up next, Trustland Trail. Trustland Trail is the concept plan. Let me pull up the plan so we can kind of look at that. There we go. It's now trying. There we go. So as I said in the staff report, I'm going to minimize this so it's not in the way. As I said in the staff report, we did circulate this diagram to neighbors, to our email list, and sent this out on Facebook as well and solicited comments. We received 19 different emails with comments. As you know, the green is existing trails. We had talked about this ADA loop addition being end of this year, beginning of next, and the orange trails being end of this year, beginning of next. The purple trail would be something that we'd be looking at for next winter, December of 2021. and these were all, this entire trail plan we took also to Island County for planning department review. They looked at everything and said, and actually had somebody from critical areas come out and walk the site, and they found no need for any permits. No, we weren't entering any critical areas or any critical area buffers, so we were fine on all of these trails set up. I know we had some concerns about birds from John, as well as some security concerns. I wanted to address the security concerns because John had said something about the gate not being secured, and we've been securing that gate at night and opening it in the morning since, I believe, last spring. Early in spring, we had some RVs parking in that area. We had some reports of potential cars that were sitting in there that were, selling things they shouldn't be selling in that area. We talked to Island County Sheriff, had them come out and do some patrols, and then we started locking that gate. So our staff, our closing staff, closes that park, closes Community Park, comes over and closes this gate. And I drove by on Monday night at the end of my day. I drove by and checked the gate, and the gate was closed. So that security is now happening up there. If it wasn't in the past, it is now, and it has been through the entire summer, as far as I know. We had some concerns about property buffers that were brought up. I know that we have walked all of these trails with GPS, and we are at least 50 feet from the property line, as we promised, on all of the existing trails. And we are also planning on all of the new trails being at least 50 feet from a property line. There was some concern about signage and trespassing onto neighbors' properties. I am going to be also sitting down with our trails committee members and looking at a full-on signage plan for this. There was some concern expressed about the ADA loop and horses. So we may have to look at restricting horse traffic on those trails, and that would be something that we would bring to the board for final approval. But I don't have a problem with that. I think that's probably quite a good idea to restrict the horse traffic and separate that out from the ADA traffic. I think that might be a good way to go. And I think we could do that, have them just access it from here, get on the trails here, and just have this trail and basically right here be foot traffic only. Foot traffic from here that way. So that way, if a horse comes in, they can come in through this way. They wouldn't be able to go that way, but they could come this way. They could go here. They could do this loop. They could do this loop. They could do this all over here. They could do that, but they wouldn't be accessing here, and they wouldn't be going that way to get onto the ADA loop. Those would be foot traffic only, to prevent them from getting all the way here and going, well, I'm just going to take the shortcut. So that's the signage. And then the other part of that whole aspect, in my mind, is on neighboring property where people have existing trails, or where people at some point decide, hey, I'm the neighbor over down here and I want to connect my property to the trail system. We have a standard signage that we put up that we put at the connection points to say, leaving Park District property, or this trail enters private property, please stay on Park District trails, do not enter private property without permission. Some sort of wording that is standard, that we put out there, that we put on all of the connections that happen that go to private property, I think would be more than appropriate. The other aspect of that is we need to name all these trails so that when we do that, we can put directional signs and map signs and wayfinding signs so that people don't get lost out on our trails. Right, Eric? All right. So those are kind of our plans. I can go back here to the comments if you wanted to look at any of those again. I did also, and I wanted to pull these up. I think I've got them here. Krista asked me to do these and bring them up. This might take a minute. So our wonderful parks maintenance staff has already gone out, and kind of this red here is so this is the existing ADA loop on a GPS. a hunting GPS. This would be the new ADA loop, and we have flagged that already. And then Tom's going to have to answer a question for me here, but we went out. This is part of the existing trail, and this is that new southwest corner loop that we would be adding on in orange that has been walked. Tom, has that been flagged as well?
Yes, the red section has been flagged over the weekend.
Okay, so both those two trails have been walked with GPS and flagged. So you can see where those are kind of located. You know, that's kind of what we're looking at with our kind of path of least impact through the forest, the easiest way for us to go for the least impact to the environment, as well as, you know, taking out the least amount of trees and you know, avoiding any sensitive type areas that we can see. Our next steps would be to flag the other orange loop, which would be, that's going to be a lot more labor intensive. And then we could start clearing as early as, you know, the next month, you know, within the next month with board approval to move forward on this. I would ask, I mean, based on the comments, I think the majority of what we got was very supportive of the concept plan. We did have some concerns expressed, but I would think that from the most part, the general community is supportive of the plan.
Can I ask a question on one of the comments, Doug?
Sure, go ahead.
So the letter from Cleveland Hall talks about the not being necessarily in agreement with the quote unquote another north-south trail parallel to the existing north-south trail. Is that a reference to the purple trail?
That's my understanding, yes.
Okay. Yeah, and just as a reminder for folks from the most recent discussions we had with property owners and the visits we had to our parks meetings, is that purple trail was in the original Trust Land Trails map or proposed trail map, and that's the one that would pick up those property owner accesses that had built into the park property on their own up along that edge. So, you know, that we've got quite a bit of other public input and comment to that specific trail that I think we should probably, Doug, I think bring up those, you know, that commentary as well. So we have that as part of the record as we look at that trail. Cause I think that to me, this is the first comment I've seen in opposition to it. There was, you know, a lot of sentiment there about having it there to help minimize, you know, the risk of people building their own trails on park property because there wasn't one to pick their property accesses up. So anyway, that to me is the one we need. Yeah, it'd be good to get the rest of that input from a year ago or whenever it was.
That specific trail is not planned until next December. So the board can basically direct us to do the two orange loops here and finish that off, as well as the ADA kind of trail. And we could table the purple trail, and I could bring back those comments. I'm sure I've got them somewhere on my computer, so I can bring back those comments and look at those from a year ago, and we could talk about those at either December or January meeting.
Yeah.
And that new trail it's a single track, right?
I think we were looking at all of these as being the main arterials. I mean, we could look at that one being a single track. That's up to the board.
So are you talking about the purple one, Shannon, or are you talking about?
I am. Yeah, I am talking about the purple one.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that it already is generally the portion of that trail that already runs up the hill, you know, and gets to those couple of properties and the trail that was built by the one property owner. So to me, that's a natural. You know, you're already halfway there with single track anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That was my question. Is, as Doug alluded to, I went out with my wife and hiked all the way back in the as far as I could. Unfortunately, it was very late at night, so we ended up way back there but I wanted to see where the trails were going to be developed. And my only question I had is that very thing, the purple trail, what is the distance actually between, because as I read through public comments, one of the themes was, you know, it's so close in proximity to the actual existing trail right now. So my question would be, what is the actual distance there? I too hiked up that access that goes into Pioneer Park properties and then stopped where the signage was and then went back down. But I'm just curious as to the distance between the purple and the existing green.
So you cannot see the purple once you get off this trail. You cannot see the purple trail from the green trail. You will not be able to see that. The brush is going to cover that. I believe it's at least 100 feet away. I mean, you're looking at here, these are all 50 feet, and these are GPS modeled, so it's 50 feet from the property line. So if you're looking here, that's going to be at least 100 feet apart.
And Eric, if you look at the map line that runs down in between the purple and the green, it gets fairly steep in there. So there's not only trees and brush, but there's a ravine separate. Matt and I and Doug and my husband and I have hiked back in there really far, and you cannot see one from the other. When you're on the purple trail, you're actually up above.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I assumed that was the case from the little I hiked it, but I was also cognizant of the fact that some of the public comment was, you know, it would be valid if you could actually hike this purple and be looking down on the green that runs parallel to it. But I'm impressed that you couldn't do that.
No, and again,
can't see it.
As Matt
Yeah, and Eric, to that, I mean, the point of that, you know, the point of that purple trail, like in the earlier conversations, whenever that was a year ago, you know, with the mainline trail down at the bottom of that hill, we've had couple of those property owners on the top of the hill building their own trails down through park property to get to the mainline trail, so that, you know, you can come out of the back fence of your property and go use the park. So that purple trail, even though it is close, it's relatively close to that centerline trail, it serves its own distinct and unique purpose by running along the property edge to pick up those trail accesses from people's properties so that they can get into the park without cutting their own trails on our park property, which is what they were doing.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, duly noted. Yeah, got it.
Okay, so
Doug, may I comment?
That'll be up to Josh again. Josh?
He's got on mute.
Josh, I can't hear you. Did we lose Josh? We might have lost Josh. So then that would be up to Jennifer as the vice chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Bush.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. Fundamentally here, I want to thank all of the commissioners and Doug and his staff. There's a huge lift here in developing these plans, and I think that we are all aligned on the desired outcome. I would offer these observations. One, while you may not be able to observe the purple trail from the green trail, from a lot of personal experience in this topography, I believe that you will be able to see the green trail from the purple trail because it's an elevated trail looking down on the other. And one of the objectives of the trail plan was to isolate trails so that they were not observable from each other. Item 2 is impact, as I mentioned in my statement, about habitat. The primary goal of this area, in addition to visitation, excuse me, is to preserve habitat for various sensitive and endangered species. So because I believe we are all aligned on the desire for visitation at a scale that is not detrimental to the natural environment, I have great faith in your ultimate conclusions, but I voice these concerns in hopes that you will review them as you proceed with your plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so what we'd be looking for here is kind of our next steps. If we were to continue with the plan as is, the Purple Trail would not be done anything until next December. The board could table the Purple Trail and tell us to proceed with flagging and starting construction on the ADA loop as well as the 2 orange loops. And we could begin that probably as soon as a couple weeks from now.
Yeah, and Doug, Jen and I are the Trails Committee, and my personal feeling is, pursuant to other questions and or resolving other questions or issues people have, I would like us to just approve the plan in principle on the timeline that we have it. So approving it would say the things that we have in there for the end of 2020, early 2021, we move forward on, and the things that we have for later in 2021, we don't move forward on yet, but we do when that comes to pass. And, we bring them back to the table. We have this as an agenda item every month. How's it going? What are we doing? Are we on track? Have we considered all these other things like habitat preservation, visibility between trails, single track versus double track, all those kind of things. We just have it as a regular monthly agenda item, but that we approve the plan as a whole and on the timeline that's included in it. That would be my recommendation.
So is that recommendation in the form of a motion?
Well, we're still discussing it, Doug. Okay. So I'll let Jen make her comment, and then any board members have any questions before we do anything like that.
No, I'm good. I'm good with what Matt said. We can look more into the Purple Trail as time goes on and continue the discussion. But getting the orange and the ADA loop, especially the ADA loop, now more than ever, our community really needs it.
Any board members have any specific questions on that?
I do have a question about considering wildlife. Is there, particularly not so much for the ADA trail, just because it's in closer, but for the 2 loops that are further out and can really be in some possibly sensitive habitat. Is there anybody that we can go to and talk to and ask about that? I think that, for me, seeing, or maybe not seeing in the case of eagles and woodpeckers, but hearing them in their home is one of the reasons why I do use trails. And while I'm not overly concerned, just because looking at some of the further developed and heavily used trail systems on the south end, such as Putney Woods, Saratoga Woods, Metcalf, where I hear woodpeckers all the time and see pileated woodpeckers. But is there any way to get a second opinion on that?
Well, my initial thought is that we could reach out to maybe potentially the person that runs our bird watching class. He might have an idea. But again, like you said, I honestly don't have a significant concern that we're going to be destroying that much habitat. Whenever you construct a trail, whenever you build any kind of trail, you do destroy some habitat. That just happens. That's what you're building, a walking path through a natural habitat. Habitat does get destroyed by that. We are very sensitive with how we do that and where we go. We try not to, like, if we see a tree that is a rare species, we avoid it. We did that on the last green loop that we did. We found a Pacific yew naturally occurring, and we went around, we were going to go that way and go right that, we said, no, we're not going to do that. So as we go through, we don't, we look where we're going, we watch where we're going, and we make decisions based on what we see. I don't think it's something that would be significant with either of these trails, but that's, if you want to know a person, that's who I would start with.
And maybe it's just a question of, to your point of being very careful, especially with some of the trees, maybe not taking down all of the snags that the woodpeckers are going to be particularly interested in, and things like that.
Yeah, and so our tree removal policy is, if it's a hazard, we take it down. That's the only thing we do. We're not going out there, and when we make these trails, we are avoiding taking out trees, period. If it is already fallen in the woods, that is habitat. We will cut a path through it. We don't remove these trees and pull them out and get them out of there. We're not creating a park, like landscaped park here. We're going through nature. We know that. Tom and his crew are very sensitive about that, and when they're going through, they're not trying to adjust, snags if they don't have to. If we don't have to pull it down and it's safe and it's solid, we're going to leave it there.
Hey, Doug, per Krista's comment, maybe I'm wrong here, but as I got lost out there in the back 40, there's a lot of those were old fire trails. I'm assuming, are they utilizing those trails as part of that connectivity?
You were all the way off our property when you were on old fire trails.
Well, then my expansion is a little different.
Yeah, well, there are when Jen referenced the walk that we did. So there are a number of, on the, I guess that's the north side of the property, the Purple Trail side. There are existing trails from long ago that cross into park property, and right now are not reflected on the trail map, and are just, when we walked and looked at potential ways that Purple Trail could go, some of it leveraged those existing corridors, right? Because obviously if there's already something there's not trees in it that you would have to work around or take down or disturb any other forest. You already got a path in there. So there's a bunch of that stuff. And Jen, you can probably comment better than me, that is on the park side of that property line, right?
So my comment to that, Eric, on the fire roads, how we do this, we use existing when we find it. If we find, so all along this, a lot of this here was an old logging road. So we just got on that superhighway and went as long as we could while staying more than 50 feet away from the property line, and then connected in, and then we put up like a natural barrier so that they couldn't go down those trails to access private property. Okay. Any other comments?
Well, if everybody's good with that, I would make a motion to approve the trail plan as proposed on the proposed timeline, and including monthly updates through the course of the plan.
I would second that motion.
Any further discussion?
All those in,
Go ahead.
in Josh's absence, all those in favor, say aye.
Krista, aye.
Eric, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
Okay. All right, that motion passes. Trying to get my computer to respond. Okay. Up next, we have the lease agreement for the administrative building. This is just a review and approval item. this is the lease of the admin building from the county. The lease did increase by about $10 a month, so $120 for the entire year. We feel, Peggy and I talked about it. We feel it can be absorbed in the existing budget, no problem. So we recommend approval. And we just need a motion, a second, and an approval if the board agrees.
I'll make a motion to approve the updated lease agreement.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
Okay. And it popped up there. Okay, next. So we did have our budget hearing. The budget documents are all ready to go in the office. We have the budget narrative, which is what is sent to the county. It is a very brief document that talks about what we're doing. We have the resolution 2020-01, which is our budget/levy resolution. And then we have the resolution 2020-02, which is the substantial need resolution. We also have the levy certification in there as well that is signed by the chair. What I would say about these, the levy resolution is our resolution for our actual levy and our budget. The substantial need is basically just to say we want to get 1% over what our levy was last year. The way this works is, for those of you that are going through your first budget cycle here, every year we can increase our levy by either 1% or the implicit price deflator. And I'm sure Peggy's going to correct me because I probably said that wrong. But so this year, the implicit price deflator is less than 1%. I don't know exactly what it is, probably like 0.9 something or something like that, or 0.7 something %. We can, with this resolution, still take the 1%. That is what we are recommending to do, is just to take our usual 1%. It is to say it's a substantial need. That's just what they term it. It's not, it's not really substantial need. It is just, that's what the terminology is when you do this. So we would be just asking for our regular 1%. The resolution 2020-01 is the budget. Then we have the substantial need. And I'll move this out of the way here. So the staff recommends approval of the budget based on the budget hearing, the budget workshop, and the comments and questions we have received from the board have all, to my understanding, been answered. So this is the budget and the levy. And this talks about the increase in 1% from the previous year. That would be 2020-01. And then the second resolution is this one, that we're going to be limited by the 1% in our levy. Okay. Is there any questions on any of that? Okay. So the staff recommends approval of resolution 2020-01, the 2021 budget, the levy certification, and resolution 2020-02, the substantial need resolution.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up, Doug, on the page. Hang on. Come on. Okay, if there's no questions, I'll make a motion. And for the budget resolution, I'd like to read the full content of the resolution. So I move to approve ordinance resolution number 2020-01, whereas the Board of Commissioners of the South Whidbey Parks and Recreation District has met and considered its budget for the calendar year 2021, and whereas the district's actual levy amount from the previous year was $941,281.52, and whereas the population of this district is more than 10,000, and now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the taxing district that an increase in the regular property tax levy is hereby authorized for the levy to be collected in the 2021 tax year. The dollar amount of the increase over the actual levy amount from the previous year shall be 9412.82, which is a percent increase of 1% from the previous year. This increase is exclusive of additional revenue resulting from new construction, improvements to property, newly constructed wind turbines, solar, biomass, geothermal facilities, and any increase in the value of state assessed property, any annexations that have occurred and refunds made.
Okay, so we have, that was a motion to approve the resolution, correct? So that was a motion to approve the resolution, correct?
Yep,
okay.
We need a second.
We need a second.
I second that motion.
Okay.
Sorry, helps if I unmute. All those in favor say aye.
Aye, Eric.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
Okay, you want to pull up the second one, Doug?
Yeah, let me see if I can here.
Our website is not keeping up with me here.
There we go. I got it. No, my computer sometimes argues with me about staying up with clicks and stuff. So here we go. I should have it up now.
Okay. Cool. All right, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance resolution number 2020-02, whereas the Board of Commissioners of South Whidbey Parks and Recreation District has met and considered that due to a substantial need to provide vital services, the board finds there is a substantial need to increase the regular property tax limit factor above the rate of inflation. Be it resolved by the governing body of the taxing district that the limit factor for 2021 tax year shall be 1%.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
Okay. I don't think we need to do anything with the levy certification, do we?
No.
No, that's just part of the budget. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
All right, so those documents are ready for signature in the office, and we're good to go.
Will you, Doug, when will you be there? Will you be there, or somebody be there tomorrow during any window?
So Peggy should be there tomorrow during the
Yes.
day.
Yes, I'll be there.
Okay, I'll try to stop by in the morning, Peggy.
Okay, 8:30, I'll be there.
Okay, just a reminder, I won't be back on the island until Friday, so tell me, Peggy, what works for you, and I'll make myself available.
Actually, as long as we get Matt and we've got I think other signatures already scheduled, we're good to go. We don't need everybody to sign. We have a quorum already set up. So Jennifer, we don't actually need you to physically sign the document.
Okay, good.
All right, next. Finance policies. So I wanted to go through this. This is something we brought forward a while ago. It was probably about 2015 when we started talking about purchasing the Gable Line property. What we are doing is clarifying the individuals authorized as signatories for the agreements and contracts. This is really going to be important this month. And I'll talk about why, because we do have the Waterman property purchase. The board has already kind of directed me to do this, so the money is there. We just need some sort of policy or some sort of document that says I'm authorized to sign on behalf of the district. So I had our bond attorneys go through this. Here is the change. We had a check signing, and that was already in there. Contractual obligations. The district may enter into contracts for services is the new section here. and the purchase of goods and or property. For a contract to be valid, it must be signed by the Parks and Recreation Director, the District Treasurer, or the Board Chair. So any one of those three could potentially sign. This has been reviewed, as I said, by our attorney. They have checked the language and everything is good, so we are good to move forward on this. Staff recommends approval of this finance policy update.
Any commissioners
make a
have
motion
any questions on the text? Just to say, anybody have any questions on the text first, real quick? Oops, you lost it, Doug.
I did lose it. Hold on. And now my computer's going slow on me again. Hold on. I'll pull it back up. There it is.
So any questions on that procedural change? Sorry, go ahead, Jen.
I make a motion to approve the finance policy update for authorized signatories.
This would actually be.
I'll second.
Sorry, let me stop you there. This is actually going to be a motion to approve resolution 2020-03.
Oh, okay.
Because when we change policy, we do so with a resolution.
All right. I make a motion to approve resolution number 2020-03, the revision of the financial policy for authorized signatories.
And I think I heard a second from Eric or Matt.
Yeah, I'll second Matt. Yep.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Eric, aye.
Krista, aye.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
All right. And now we've got a few things for you, some stuff that we're finishing up here. So Tom mentioned, I mentioned in the staff report, we did receive a bid for tank cleaning for our water tank. This is our large water tank, and this is for them to come in. They come in, they dive in the tank, do they not, Tom, and clean it out completely. This is something we do on a somewhat regular basis, but not every year. Tom, any other comments on this? But this is the only source available. That's why I'm bringing it to you. It's a kind of a sole source provider. Again.
Yeah, we've used them for years. We used to do this on a yearly basis, and it's been about 4 years since we've had them come in, just because of the cost. I figured that, if we can stretch that out as far as we can, just saves everybody, the district money. So with the water tests we've been having lately, I thought it was time to bring them back in. But they actually dive in dry suits, and they have it almost looks like a large vacuum cleaner that actually scrubs and sucks the debris off and basically is dumped out into the woods.
And is there like a water test sequence? Do we water test before and then water test after, or is it just back to the normal cycle of testing?
Basically, when they're done, I dump the whole tank, refill it, and then rechlorinate and flush all the lines.
Got it. Okay.
The biggest thing that happens in these tanks is the debris at the bottom. It actually starts to accumulate. It's a little bit of sand, but it's just a muck. And I think the last time we did it, there was 3 to 4 inches of that in the bottom of the tank. And so that's part of the process. Is they clean the walls, which get extremely slimy, and then they vacuum out basically all that debris out of the bottom of the tank as well.
So I will say staff does recommend approval of this. I mean, we did just have a good test, but we also previously this year had a bad source test. So we want to make sure that we're staying on top of these maintenance issues. Staff does recommend approval of this item.
So given that we haven't had it done for 4 years, are we anticipating then that there will be the fees for the additional sediment per hour?
No, I don't think so.
Thanks, Tom.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the water tank cleaning as proposed.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Eric, I.
Krista, I.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
Okay. 2 more items for your consideration tonight, board. We have received now 3 bids to replace the roof on the doghouse. This is something that was in the capital plan. It was a highly ranked item that we talked about when we went through and looked at all the projects. It is lower than what we had budgeted. I believe we are looking at this quote here, which is the $16,486.53. Is that correct, Tom? Am I on the right one?
Yes, Apex Roofing.
$16,486.53. I believe we had in the budget $20,000 for this, and we are currently on track with our budget to be able to afford to do this. Staff feels it will fit in the budget. Staff recommends approval of this prior to the end of the year. And I believe, Tom, didn't you say that the contractors felt they could get it done in that time frame?
Yes, I spoke with him last week and told him if we were approved, I would call him basically tomorrow, Thursday, and he felt real confident he could get us done by the end of the year.
Okay. So staff is looking. We do have 2 other quotes that were higher. This one was $17,993, and the third one was $18,207. So the 16 was definitely the lowest of the 3 quotes, and that is just replacement of the roof on the doghouse.
It's also going to include sheeting it with plywood first.
Okay, what's the name of the vendor, Doug, again?
It is Apex Roof Systems.
Apex. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the roof replacement through Apex Roof Systems.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Eric, I.
Krista, I.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
Okay. And finally, Tom was able to secure 3 quotes for the provision of a vehicle lift. This again was a highly ranked item in the capital plan. The lowest was, is it the first one here, Tom? The 5406? Or is it?
It's the Bend Pack.
Bend Pack, okay. So it would be this one right here. Bend Pack, and this is to provide and install. The install is $800. The total would be $5,349.11. Installed for a vehicle lift to be able to lift the vehicles up. We would not have to send them out for certain things then, and it would make our maintenance of these items a lot easier and more efficient going forward. This would be, and Tom, you said you had this, you had space for this in one of your line items, so go ahead and detail that out.
Yeah, our let's see, which one is it? I'm just getting to that sheet. Under vehicle and machine repair and parts, we have $5,098 left, and so that's going to be the majority of this cost. So it does fit within the budget.
Okay. Any other questions on that? The staff would recommend approval of the Bend Pack quote to provide and have installed the vehicle lift for maintenance of our vehicles.
I'll make a motion to approve the Bend Pack quote for the vehicle lift.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Eric, I.
Krista, I.
Matt, aye.
Jennifer, aye.
All right, that is all I have, Jennifer. So if you would like to adjourn the meeting, we can do that. If there's anything else.
If you don't mind, a comment?
I just want to remind the commissioners to send your email to me.
Jennifer, if you don't mind a comment?
Go ahead, Mr. Bush.
Thank you very much. You know, in representative democracy, accountability is the low bar, attentiveness is the high bar. And what I've experienced this evening is the accomplishment of that high bar. I thank all of you for your service and care to the environment and the importance of recreational opportunities for your constituency. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. We appreciate the comments. All right, we will adjourn this meeting at 8:05 p.m.
And just a reminder to everybody that you do need to, if you've not been in already to pre-sign, you do need to come in and sign documents if possible tomorrow. Peggy will be in the office by 8:30. Thank you everybody much.
I'll be there. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
This conference is no longer being recorded.